Hello and welcome to measurement. So again, chapter 5, measurement. We're going to be doing 5.1 in this video. So measurement, as you can see right there, it's a number that describes the size or amount of something. We do this all the time. 5 cups of flour, 3 feet long, blah, blah, blah. That's what measurement means. And we take them all the time for length, area, capacity, weight, temperature, time. And in the United States, we have the imperial system here in this textbook. It's called the U.S. Customary Measurement System. And then there's also the metric system that we're trying, we as in me and some other people, we're trying to use the metric system more because in a lot of cases it just makes more sense. So we're going to be starting off by talking about length, okay? And so here, length is going to be the distance from one end to another or from one object to another. And we're specifically going to be talking a little bit about unit conversions as well. So we in the United States oftentimes use inches, yards, feet, miles, not in that order. But I don't just like reading. So I guess I'm just mixing it up on purpose. Okay, so some measurements that you may or may not be aware of already is the length of a normal piece of paper, like this piece of paper right here is 8.5 by 11 inches. Okay, the height of an individual, oftentimes in feet and inches. Football field can be 100 yards, maybe 130 yards. And a lot of times when running, which I'm probably going to do after recording these videos, I've recently gotten into running, we also talk about in miles. So of course, right, whenever we're talking about measurements, we want to be able to convert. So that's what this video is going to be about, is going to be about how to convert these things. Okay, so there's a conversion table. In this module, look at the bottom of the module. There's resources. There's a conversion table. You can also Google a bunch of these things, right? So let's say if I forget, I don't know how many feet are in a mile. You don't even have to type that many words. Google will tell you 1 mile is 5280 feet. All right, so there's tons of way to find this out. And I can't believe I just used Bing in a video. I don't usually use Edge, but I'm using it for these math videos. Here we go. So in order to convert something, it's all about multiplying by 1. All right, a unit fraction is what we say. Because a lot of times what you can do, right, is if I multiply any number, so if I multiply 5, for example, let's multiply that by 2 over 2. Well, 2 over 2 reduces, right, it simplifies down to 1. We're multiplying this number by 1. It's not changing. That's all we're doing today. We're multiplying by 1. All right, so, right, I can multiply by 2 over 2. I can multiply 5 by 6 over 6. It's still going to be 5. Right? This is still 1. This quantity right here is the number 1. Look, I can even have well, I tried to make my 1 look a little fancier, but now it just looks kind of dumb. All right. And that's exactly what we're doing here. So look at the notes right here, right? 12 inches is the same thing as a foot. So let's look at this a little differently now. Instead of taking 5, let's say that we have 5 feet. We're going to multiply it by 1. So instead of multiplying by 6 over 6, let's say we're going to multiply it by 1 foot underneath 12 inches. And you might say, whoa, Jason, slow down. You're not multiplying by 1 anymore, right? This isn't 6 over 6. Now you're doing 12 over 1. What's the deal, Jason? Come on. Well, jokes aside, right? This is still 1. Because, as the notes say, 12 inches is the exact same thing as 1 foot. 6 is the same thing as 6. 12 inches are the same thing as a foot. And you might say, okay, how do I know which one goes on top? Because it does matter. And which one goes on top matters so that we get cancellation here. Okay. Anytime you multiply an integer, which is just a number, well, that's a simplification. An integer just like this times a fraction, right? we can write this integer as 5 over 1 and then multiply the tops together and multiply the bottoms together. So what this really is over here, right? This is 5 feet over 1 times 12 inches over 1 foot. And now the units cancel. So we choose the feet to be in the bottom so that that cancellation happens. And then all we're left with is multiplying the numbers together. 5 times 12 is going to be 60. What's left over? There's no more feet. We just have inches. What's on the bottom? 1 times 1. No units at all are left on the bottom. Okay, so just 60 over 1. So we're just left with 60 inches, which, if you've done a lot of conversion between inches and feet, yes, 5 feet is 60 inches. Okay, so that's an example here. All that we have here is we're just multiplying things by 1. So you can do it in either order. You choose whichever one of these you need so that the cancellation happens. So let's look at this. Example 5.2a. We need to convert 9 feet into inches. How do we convert 9 feet into inches? All right, well, let's go over. Let's start with 9 feet. This is what we're starting with, all right? So we have 9 feet. I'm going to put it as a fraction. Why not? We can put anything over 1 and it doesn't change anything. And maybe make a little note to ourselves. We're trying to put this into inches. Okay, so it's going to be basically the same as last time. So maybe off to the side, it also helps. How do we relate inches to feet? Well, 1 foot is 12 inches. That's how we relate what we have to what we want. All right, and as soon as we do that, all that is left is to choose which one goes on top. Well, feet need to go on the bottom so that they cancel. All right, so 1 foot is on the bottom, just like last time. 12 inches is on the top, just like last time. And the feet cancel. We're left with 9 times 12. Maybe that one's not as easy, but remember, you can use a calculator. Any calculator you want. We can use Desmos in here. Oh, I already did 5 times 12 on here. So we have 9 times 12 that we need to do. 9 times 12 is 108. Okay? So we're left with 108. There's no more feet. The feet canceled. We're just left with inches on the top. And on the bottom, we're just left with 1. So we're going to get 108 inches as our final answer. This is what happens when you take 9 feet and you convert it to inches. All right, let's do another one. Let's do part B. So part B says convert 7 yards to feet. So we start with 7 yards and we want to convert it to feet. So we need to look at our conversion table, which in this case, we have a mini one here, but there's the mega one on Canvas under resources in the module. We need to say, what's the relationship between feet and yards? And it's right here. 1 yard is 3 feet. So we do that. Off to the side, right? 1 yard equals 3 feet. We can always write any number as that same number divided by 1. And we're going to multiply it by 1 so that we don't change it and the units are going to cancel. When I say we don't change it, I'm referring to like at the beginning of the video when you multiplied by 6 over 6. Because 9 feet is 108 inches. Those are the exact same thing. We don't want to change 9 feet. We just change how it looks. But we don't change the number, really. 9 feet is 108 inches. We don't change the measurement. That's the actual word. So we're going to put yards on the bottom here because we want them to cancel. So what's the yards part? 1 yard. The 3 feet is going to go on the top then. The yards cancel, and we're just left with 7 times 3 feet, which is 21 feet. Divided by 1, oh, that's just 21 feet. So yes, 7 yards is 21 feet. And that's part B. All right, let's go through, take a moment, pause the video. Try to do part C on your own. Pause the video now. Okay, hopefully you paused the video. We're going to do part C together now. If you didn't pause the video, shame on you. But not that much shame, just a little bit of shame, okay? So part C is we have 12,356 feet. Oops, typo. This is why math people say not to write in pen, but I love pens, so whatever. So we have these feet, and we're wanting to move this to miles. So we look at our measurement table and say, okay, what's the relationship between feet and miles? And the answer is 5,280 feet equal 1 mile. Ugh, it's not fitting. So we need these numbers are getting too big for my little column. So we need to multiply by a fraction involving these two numbers. So again, we're going to put feet on the bottom because we want the feet to cancel. How many feet? 5,280 feet. And that's equal to 1 mile. 1 mile is the same as 5,280 feet, so it's fine to multiply our number by this. The feet cancel, and now we're left with 12,356. No more feet on the top. We have miles. And on the bottom, we have just 5,280. And unless you are some sort of mathematical savant, you cannot do this in your head. I cannot do this in my head either. I am not a mathematical savant. So we go to the calculator and say, what is 12,356 miles divided by 5,280? And it says it's a very long number. It repeats. So 2.34015, and then the 1/5s repeat. I'm not going to make a big deal about this in the class, but this is how you write it, right? If the 1 and the 5 repeat, the 15 repeats over and over again, you can write it like this, or you can just approximate to 2.34 miles. All right, that's about how many feet. There we go. Hopefully you got to that same answer when you paused the video and definitely did the problem while the video was paused. Otherwise, feel free to ask me if you have any questions. All right, last one here. Let's do part D. 4,325 yards. And we want that over 1. We want to translate that to miles. And if you look at your conversion table, you may or may not find a relationship between yards and miles. I don't know how many yards are in a mile, but I could find out. So you can check your conversion table if it's there. I don't actually remember off the top of my head. You can find out how many yards are in a mile and do it that way. Or one thing you can do is just do it twice. We could convert yards to feet because I know how many feet are in a mile. So you have two options, right? If you know how to get there immediately, go ahead and get there immediately. Write that relationship down here. Or you could say 3 yards are in 1 foot. Oof. 3 yards are in 1 foot. And then maybe a little lower down, right? Still 5,280 feet are in 1 mile. And then we do the exact same thing. All right, so I'm going to go through this a little quickly now. 3. Why is this guy teaching math? 3 yards are equal to a foot. That's not right. The downside's that 1 yard is 3 feet. Oh, yeah. 1 yard, 3 feet. Good job, Jason. You did it. All right, so we're going to multiply these together, not an equal sign. Oh, it's going to be one of those kind of days for me. All right, we multiply this out and use a calculator. Hopefully you get 12,975. The yards cancel. We're just left with feet over 1. And now we need to correlate feet to miles. So we multiply by 5,280 feet are in 1 mile. The feet cancel. And we're left with 12,975 miles over 5,280. We use a calculator, and I'm just going to approximate to do decimal places again. And we're going to get 12,975 divided by 5,280. And we're going to get about 2.46, round to the nearest hundredth. Is a good rule of thumb, but on a quiz or something, I'll specify exactly what I want you to do. If you're ever unsure about what I want you to round to, just ask me. Okay? And always include units in your answer. But apparently I'm just trying to show you how many things you can do wrong on part D. Always include units. Whew. All right, last problem here. Example 5.3. So we have, let me pull this up so you can read along. We have a hardware store, and it has 2 sales on tubing. So you can get 3 yards of tubing A for $5.49 and 2 feet of tubing B for $188. So obviously, tubing B is not necessarily way cheaper. It looks cheaper, but right, that's only for 2 feet, whereas the other one is for 3 yards, which is a lot more. So you can use either tubing for your project, and we want to know which one's less expensive. So again, we're comparing apples and oranges right now. One of them is in yards, and one of them is in feet. We need them to both be the same. So it doesn't matter which way we convert. Do you want to convert tubing A's price to feet? Do you want to convert this to yards? It doesn't really matter. I'm going to convert both of them to feet. Okay. So let's write down what we know. Anytime you have an application problem, a problem with words, write down what you know. So here we know 3 yards of A is $5.49. And we know that 2 feet of B is $1.88. Little math tip for all you guys. Anytime you see is, that's an equal sign. Okay? So we can just try to figure out, right? If we know the dollars per foot, then we have the answer. I don't want to finish that sentence, so I'm going to write then smiley face. Also, I'm on the wrong side. I'm blocking the work now. Whew, there we go. So let's start with A. Let's start with this. We have the cost is $5.49 per 3 yards. This is our cost for tubing A. I want to know how many dollars is that per every foot. Fraction bar is the same as this slash, and it means the word per. $5.49 per 3 yards. So let's convert the yards to feet. Well, 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. So if we want this to be feet, dollars per foot, we need to get rid of the yards. So yards are going to go on the top so that the yards cancel, and it's equal to 3 feet. Yards cancel. Let's multiply across. Multiply the tops by the tops, the bottoms by the bottoms. And we're left with $5.49 on the top. And the bottom is 9 feet. So we want dollars per foot. We don't have dollars per feet just yet. We have dollars per 9 feet. So let's divide this out on Desmos to get it out. So the question is, what is 549 divided by 9? I typed in 8. And the answer is, it's exactly $0.61 per foot. That is how expensive A is. Now pause the video and try to do the same thing for B. All right, hopefully you've done that, paused and unpaused. Let's see if we got the same thing. So B was $1.88 per 2 feet. Well, if we want dollars per feet, we already have feet. We just need to divide it out. So 188 divided by 2. Oh, I don't trust myself to do that in my head. Is 0.94. And again, what are our units? Dollars per feet. So A is 61 cents per foot. B is 94 cents per foot. So A is cheaper. I think that's what we were asked to do. You should always make sure. Which tubing is less expensive? A is less expensive. So right, even though if you don't look at units, A looks like it's more. But if you look at the units, A is actually cheaper. So this is useful, right? When you're buying anything, even just going to the grocery store, right? You see, you can't just look, you know, which is the smaller number on the price tag. It's about how much you're getting per quantity, per cost. And, you know, sometimes they're not even listed in the same units, which is annoying, which is where this can come in handy. This is some math that appears in society. All right. This video is longer than I wanted it to be, but hopefully it helps. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. Reach out. Ask me. Okay? Bye-bye.